I remember about 3 or 4 years ago, I was teaching the number one female player in the world on the LPGA, the number one amateur in the world, and the number one 12-year in the world. I didn't feel fulfilled at all. Like, that would be more interesting, right? So I got to this point where I'm like, hang on, this is weird. Like, I've worked so hard to get to this point where I have these players and have these players doing well, and their success was not fulfilling for me.
Yeah.
And it was a really nice turning point in my career and my life, because I realized that I can't rely on the success of others to make me feel fulfilled.
Welcome to the Breaking Boundaries podcast, where we delve deep into the minds of the most extraordinary individuals. I'm Simon Dyson, and alongside me is Alex Clapp.
Our guests tell stories where we can learn from their successes and overcome challenges to inspire our own growth. Here's what will be coming up today.
You're going to what, sorry?
I'm opening up an academy in Korea. That's why.
Of course you are. Of course you are. Flipping Asian Chris now. Isn't it? It's big out there though, eh? I bet you've seen the potential out there.
Unbelievable. I was there in April to do a seminar. I did like a whole day certification course for Sportsbox, and it was absolutely shocking. Like, I knew it was going to be big. Like, I knew that I knew golf was huge there, but like, to what extent was pretty incredible.
Why do you think they'll love it so much?
I mean, I think it fits the culture, with discipline and the hard work.
Yeah.
You know, I can only speak for the Koreans because that's where I'm going. I've been to China, I've been to Thailand, I've been to Malaysia. They're all very different. They've gone as well, but I just think it fits well with the culture and the discipline, and they understand, look, they're less athletic potentially than certain races, and golf goes well. Like, you don't need to be as athletic, and then those other things in terms of the focus, the dedication, the hard work,
yeah.
like, things are huge for golf. So, but what was interesting for me is they're spending so much time doing it and not doing it well.
Right.
So when I was there, I was like, I said to the coach, I was like, I feel like if I opened a place up here, I'd kill it. I think it would be amazing. And he says, yeah, I think you would too. So I left and I said to him, I was like, look, why don't we do something? Well, it'll either be Chris Mason Golf Academy, or we can start a new brand together. But think about it, talk to your wife, have a conversation with your parents and the people around you, and see if this is something that you want to do. Because I know that the formulas that I've run in America would translate very, very well over in Korea.
Who's that guy you're working with out there?
His name's Kenny Kim, Team Kenny Performance. So he grew up in America, but is Korean, and he's in Korea for the last 4 years running an academy.
Right.
He would bring his players to me in San Diego to work with me.
Oh, mega.
Yeah, and then when I was doing this, he said, hey, come and spend a couple of days with my players at my academy. So that's kind of when we've got a great relationship. And then, he's kind of like used me as a mentor. If you ever get stuck with a player, I'll say, hey, what do you think about this swing? What do you think works well here? So we've got this good relationship, but, I'm adding all this performance side when the Koreans only do the technical aspect. And it's shocking. I mean, these players were there for, on a driving range, right? Just like hitting balls between 4 and 7 hours. Not really doing short game, not doing any performance aspects, just like one ball goes, and then the next ball just pops right up out of the ground, and they drag it out.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
So with those, the players that are going to be in the academy are anywhere from sort of 15 to 25. They're already good players, already very dedicated. So, I had my performance side in there, the mental aspects, the measured practice, all those things. Our goal's to find the next Korean with Raul.
I was going to say, was there any that kind of stood out when you were there? You were like, he's got a little something, or she's got a little something there.
The tangibles, right? Or the intangibles of what makes a great player I almost feel like they can't, not that they can't be taught, but like those things take a lot of time. They take time from the right people, being around the right coaches, like, and it's an attitude, it's an energy, it's a mentality that differentiates yourself compared to the normal ones, right? So over there, you've got like a bunch of robots basically who are taught, hey, you got to hit balls for 47 hours, and I'm going to, as a coach, I'm going to try and make you perfect, right? What I'm trying to teach them is how to play the game and how to think, which is a little bit different because, as tour coaches, thinking about this morning, so I've got to do a presentation in Korea, but I was thinking about this morning. The easiest thing for a tour coach is to have someone with those things and it only be a technical issue, right? Like that's easy for me. Like if, okay, I'm hitting too much hook, it's like, no problem, I'll fix your hook. Like that's easy.
Yeah.
What's hard is to take someone who's a really good player, and make them a world beater, right? Like those things are found in the dirt. Those things are looking in the mirror. Those things are putting your balls out there on the line when you're obstacle. As you guys know, there's not many people in the world who really want to be uncomfortable, right? Who really want to be afraid of fucking up, like there's not many people that want that feeling.
Definitely a rare breed that comes from, that's for sure.
Yeah. And
do you reckon that's just the world we live in? Like you're almost told, oh, you can't afford to mess up, you can't afford to fuck up, so people don't want to. Whereas actually, you find a lot about yourself when you do.
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah, it's the world's hard, and everybody likes to be safe. Everybody likes to be comfortable. Whether that's discipline or work ethic or whatever it is. But like those true geniuses, those top. Let's take it in the men's game, there's probably 20 guys, right? And on the women's game, there's only probably 10 who really want to be great.
Yeah.
And Koepka's always interesting because he's always talking about this every major championship, isn't he? He said, look, there's a lot of great players here, but like no one really wants it like I do. There's very few people, so we know the 10 or 15 that are going to be there on a Sunday. And that's balls, isn't it? That's actually years and years of looking yourself in the mirror and I want this. I want this in my life. I want to be afraid. I want to be uncomfortable. I want to be crapping my pants walking up 18 at Augusta. That's what I thrive for. And coach, you can't do that in days or weeks, right?
The one who stands out for me there is Ian Poulter.
Yeah.
I'm not being disrespectful to Poltz when I say this. He's not the most talented player. You watch Brooks as a young kid, he had it. You watch Poulter, you're like, really? But then he just knew what he needed to do, and he went out and did it, said what he wanted to say, and he did it, and he backed it up. And you've got to respect somebody for that, because to believe in himself that much when he had so many doubters, he's had an unbelievable career.
Yeah, ridiculous.
It really is incredible, isn't it? And, I grew up very close to him. I grew up, a mile and a half from Leighton Buzzard Golf Club. So not that I know Ian particularly well, he was a bit older than me, but, I was always the stud at Bedfordshire County. And then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 or 5 years later, and he's, just started doing incredibly well. Barbara did a great job with him at Leighton Buzzard. But like it's not like he had all these extra things or the coaching abilities or there's a prime example of just will and determination gets you so far.
Absolutely. So Chris, take us back. Where did it all start? Talk us through your story a bit. Where did it start? Where did you transition to
England
coach?
boys with me.
Yeah,
I can't say I was in that camp, but you two can have that little bit of a connection.
I think my story is quite similar to most teachers in a certain way. I probably peaked at about 17, to be honest. I was a very good sportsman in England. Played all the sports. Had England trials at cricket and hockey and field hockey, and then ended up playing obviously for the England boys team. Did well as a junior. Got recruited to lots of different American universities. At the time, I was on the team with Nick Doherty and Dave Porter, David Griffith. We won home internationals a couple of times. But of the 12 of us, I was the only one that really wanted to go and play college golf. So the American universities were coming over and recruiting a lot of players, because at the time, Paul Casey and Luke Donald were number 1 and 2 ranked players in the country. So I was lucky. I got a bunch of full ride offers, but I went to a really good school in England and wanted to continue my education. So was only really looking at academic institutes. And in hindsight, if I knew I wanted to play professionally, I probably should have gone somewhere else. So, that's sort of a, environmental thing that kind of, I don't think it necessarily hurt my playing career, but it didn't advance me the way I probably would have done if I'd stayed in England. I had a decent college career, but nothing like my junior career, and then moved out to San Diego, played professionally in America and a little bit without particularly any success. My first year was pretty good, but I look back now and realize that I just wasn't good enough. Being around the best players in the world, there's just such a difference how they hit the ball, how they think, how they go about their game, and basically from 22 to 26, I look back now and realize I was training myself to become a coach, not necessarily training myself to be a player. So I think that really helped me, in terms of becoming a good coach, versus, perhaps training myself to be in more of that player realm. Fortunate for the most part. I think San Diego is an incredible place to live, be a golfer and be a coach. Obviously 12 months a year of glorious sunshine for the most part. There's a lot of wealth here, probably the epic junior golf tournaments. There's tournaments every weekend. SoCal for the most part was a place for me to start my career and getting sort of into this elite coaching. So, and just like everybody, I think I got lucky with the facility that I was at. Was a very good facility, Lacoste. And then I got lucky with a Korean girl, IK Kim, who's when I came to her, she had a classic, it's like we were saying earlier, she got sort of a classic technical issue that I could fix. And it was pretty easy, and she started playing great from that point, and that was sort of my big sort of entry into the tour world. So again, lucky to be in the right time at the right place, lucky to have the information at the time. Then that sort of started off my career as a tour coach, I suppose.
When you say you were training yourself those 6 years, training yourself to become a coach, what were you doing? What did you mean?
When I was playing in college, I just seemed to have a good eye for the swing and what the motion produced for the ball flight. So all the college players that I played at Purdue, they would come and take lessons from me. So not like official lessons, can you come and take a look at my swing? Now, when I went on to the mini tours, it would be the same thing. The mini tour players would come and ask my opinion. Now, I'm playing competitively against these people, and I get in pocket for money. And I loved helping them so much. Basically, what I would end up doing is trying to coach myself. So my mom and dad bought me a video camera, and I filmed myself pretty much every day and try a little that. And I tried all these different drills. I would go on YouTube. You remember the Konica Minolta Biz Hub vision thing? I mean, I would spend hours on that thing, watching what the best players did and comment out. Yeah. Try this with my swing. So I just read every single book I possibly could on coaching, thinking that it was going to make me a better player, but really just realizing training myself to be a coach. And, I don't regret it. I love it. I'll never forget. I tell the story a lot, but my last ever professional event was a place in Florida called Tiburon, in a very tight Greg Norman course. And we went out to play the practice round before, and I had probably lost 10 balls on the front nine. I'm out of balls. And I said to the guys, I'm embarrassed. I'm gonna go and hit some balls, see if I can figure something out before tomorrow round. And I get there and Dave's there and he said, Dave's like, hey, can you take a quick look at my swing? Love to do that. Brendan said, hey, can you take a quick look at my chip? Yeah, I'd love to do that. So I spent 4 hours on the range in the afternoon before an event, helping everybody else I was about to play at. And I can just remember the next day on my way to shooting 80, I'm like, I wonder how Dave's doing. I wonder how Brendan's doing. And I'm in the wrong profession.
Yeah.
I'm loving coaching more than I'm loving playing. Like this is obvious transition for me now. So, I don't regret any of it. Would I have done the things differently to play professionally? Yeah, probably. But I love my life and I love what I do and I love helping people. So I think things have worked out really well.
Your passion in helping develop young golfers and elite golfers is obviously very prominent and at the forefront of everything you do. Talk us through a couple of moments where you felt a lot more, well, in your career so far, should we say, hopefully a lot more to come, but a lot of kind of self-fulfillment in what you felt with reaching certain accolades with players, or a moment you felt, okay, this is a little bit of validation for what I've done here with this.
I bet I know one of them. The old Safeway Open.
That was a good one. I've been very, very fortunate. We're very fortunate in that it's the accolades of other people that accolade ourselves, right? So it's a win-win, isn't it? Like as you put a heart and soul into these things, and you hope everybody plays well. That's not realistic. Most people don't play great all the time. You worry, you lose sleep, so when you have the victories, it's really, really nice. But just like a player, I would say they're a bit fleeting, right? Like you wake up the next morning and you get the accolade. Oh, well done, Chris. Congrats, whole team. Yeah, it's great. And then right back onto the next thing, right? Going to the Olympics, that stands out to me, like first professional win, like that's great. But I got a text from a junior player who won the Southern California junior event yesterday, and that made me feel great. So they're all really good. A more interesting answer to your question, Alex, would be more, I remember about 3 or 4 years ago, I was teaching the number one female player in the world on the LPGA, the number one amateur in the world, and the number one 12-year in the world. And I didn't feel fulfilled at all. Like that would be more interesting, right? So I got to this point where I'm like, hang on, this is weird. Like this, I've worked so hard to get to this point where I have these players and have these players doing well, and their success was not fulfilling for me.
Yeah.
And it was a really nice turning point in my career and my life, because I realized that I can't rely on the success of others to make me feel fulfilled. And it's been helpful. I remember I was in my living room. I was sitting back here and I was like, why am I not happy right now? Like, this is what I wanted. And I realized that it was more, what I needed to do was focus more on my development as a person, right? Like the mental and the physical and the spiritual attributes that make me, Chris Mason, make me feel fulfilled. And it's been really good. So like for me, the fulfillment is helping people, but bettering myself. Because I know the better I can be physically, the better I can be with my education, the better I can be spiritually, like the better that's going to be for my wife, for my kids, for my players. And that's kind of to the point that got me fulfilled. So if there's any young coach, right, do grind, need to grind, but it's far more important to take care of yourself than it is you get wrapped up in the accolades of what your players do. Because that stuff is very fleeting. And let's face it, as coaches, these players come and go, right? like players come and go. Rewards and the accolades each as a player. So try and find what it is that fulfills you as a journey, and then stay focused on that journey.
But they're all forgotten the week after, aren't they? Like you said, oh, well done, he's won. Next one. And then all of a sudden, if I said to you, who won 3 weeks ago, you'd be like, don't know. It's just you remembered last night's Tom Kim, that's it. And so, yeah, you're right. And it's a snowball effect. If you improve that part and then that part of yourself, it's just a snowball, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's, I mean, it's good advice for a player too, right? Like focus on the journey of improvement.
Absolutely.
Right?
Everybody wants the end destination.
Of course they do.
Right now.
And it's, you want dice. It's like, it's great. And I tell all my players, I'm like, if you win, you must celebrate. Whether that's going out.
Yeah, we did that.
Whether it's buying a car or buying a, whatever it is that like makes you really.
Absolutely.
You got to celebrate those little victories because they're very fleeting and gone quickly. I mean, we golf's hard. You just fail most of the time.
Yeah.
There's elements of that as well, where overcoming your own self-doubt and how to manage it and keep moving forward. How have you done that in what you've done with players or in yourself?
Yeah, that's another really good question. There was a breakthrough moment for me right around 28 or 29 where studying everything I can. I'm like, I just had a kid. I'm like waking up 3:30 in the morning, doing my masters, taking care of my baby, going to work for 10 hours, coming home, doing videos, more studying. I want to be the number one coach in the world, like so focused, right? And I'm looking at all this information that's coming out on YouTube at the time, and there's these coaches who are putting information out, right? And I'm reading everybody's books, and I'm doing as much studying as I can to kind of formulate what I thought would make me a good coach. And there was a moment where I would go down these rabbit holes of these different coaches and the technique, and I would get deep down the rabbit hole, and then I was like, oh, okay, like I really like these pieces, but I don't like this piece at all. Right. And then I'd come back out the rabbit hole and be like, okay, I'll keep hold of these pieces. Those are good. And I'll keep moving on my direction. But I remember looking at those coaches and being like, well, hang on a minute. I teach way more good players than they do. Like, why am I listening to these coaches? Like, I'm in the field. Like, I'm the one that's doing the coaching here. I'm having a lot of success doing what I'm doing in my style, in my way. So can I continue my education and get these pieces, right? And assume that I know nothing, but with the confidence of doing things my way while I get success. And I would tell my coaches this every day. I would drive home and be like, okay, here's my 8 to 10 lessons. What went well about each lesson, right? What did I do well? What could I have done better? Could I got them hitting better quicker? Like, when I keep these pieces that went well, can I throw away these, and find out new ways of doing things that went badly? So, I call it a growth mentality, but I kind of had these systems in place. I look back now and had these systems in place that I'm like, okay, like I'm having success here. Like if my players are getting better and they're playing well and they're practicing better, like clearly what I'm doing is working. It comes from a place of like assuming you know nothing, right? But having the confidence of understanding when you are doing things, what you're doing those.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you, can you share any habits or routines? And I took that one from you from a podcast I was listening in the past, where it's on the drive home, think about all your lessons in your head and kind of figure out what you could have done better, what you could have done worse, and the constant self-analysis on yourself is obviously what keeps you at the front of what you're doing within instruction. I mean, I know Dice is trying to do the same as well.
Just bit of self-reflection, though, isn't it? You speak to any life coach or anybody like that, they say it's so important to do that. And it's great that you put that into what you do.
There's that saying, isn't there? Like you don't, you never want to be talking, because if you're talking, you're not learning anything. Right. And
Yes.
I know there's better putting coaches than me. I know there's better swing coaches, people that know more about the body or how to generate speed more. Like there's so much more for me to learn out there. But I think you've also got to step back sometimes and be like, well, everybody that came to see me today hit it better at the end of the lesson than they did at the beginning. Now they've gone off and they played this tournament, but they haven't played well. Okay, well, why? And how can I help them play better next time? How is their mental process? How is their practice? Like how all the things that go into playing well, like, how can I help them on those aspects now? So, this game's infinitely complicated, and none of us will ever be as good as we probably think we are. But as long as I keep improving myself. Like that's again, like that's what fulfills me, and I know that's only going to help people that I'm going to be spending time with.
Yeah. Talk to us. I know Dice wanted to hear about the caddying experience.
I just want to know, because I don't think a lot of coaches do this enough, and I know you do it a lot, which I love. Because I did it for one of my players a couple of weeks ago, and I loved it because I learned so much about him. But you've had Brandon since he was how old?
We started, actually, we had the same agent when I was playing mini tours. And then he got on tour and then heard that I was doing really well, so came to see me. And it's probably been about 12 years now. I mean, he's had an amazing career. I mean, he's got a
fantastic,
weird swing, and he's on the PGA Tour for 12 years. Now he's playing live and doing really well there. And he's 40 years old and had an incredible career. And him and Ike, I owe a lot of my success to, because they have taught me so much. Amazing players about how they go about their game. But, Brendan's got the weird grip and the goofy swing. And for me, it was about like being able to figure out what the commonalities were between what he did and what Tiger Woods did, who would be sort of more of a textbook model, versus a Furyk, who's a high arm player, versus a Kuchar, who is a low arm player. Like, what are all the commonalities? And I think as a coach, there's so many coaches that go down this method teaching. And the fact of the matter is, you're wrong, right? You're only part of the way there as a method coach. So, because most people can't do what you're asking them to do, or it's going to take too long to get into that model. So while it's great to learn all these models, whatever they are, but could you put Tiger in that model? No. Okay, so now you can't teach Tiger Woods. Could you put Furyk in that model? No. Okay, so now you can't teach in Furyk. Could you put Kuchar in the model? No, you can. Okay, so there's 2 out of the top 7 on the PGA Tour career money list that you couldn't even begin to teach because you only know one model. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here.
No.
So, as a coach, like, you need to understand these models. You need to understand, and you certainly should have preferences. People who have seen my Instagram page or come to see me know that Chris Mason has preferences in a golf swing, and that's okay. And you need to know your reasons for those. But what you can't have is a model, because then you're only going to get certain people with you and be successful. You're going to mess more people up than you are going to help them, and that's not our job. In terms of you guys have any comments on that?
No, I couldn't agree more on that, to be honest. I mean, and this is why sometimes you get Instagram coaching and things like that will potentially wind you up, or because they're selling pretty swings as opposed to selling what the scorecard reads at the end of it, right? And the scorecard's the only thing that matters, rather than looking at how your swing is aesthetically.
Yeah.
And identifying the swing characteristics versus traits and what works with a certain student is good. And I was going to pivot off to onto sports box and how you use that, but finish your caddying story first, and then we'll get a little bit more in the sports box after that.
Yeah, I've been caddying. I actually started caddying. I probably did 10 or 11 with IK because she wanted me to come out. And at the time, I'm 27 or 28 years old. Just the idea of being on a tour is just so thrilling at the time. And obviously I picked up more players because I was out there, but you just get to see so much and kind of jump into the mind. Time was of a player who was such a genius. She's short. She doesn't have that powerful hit. He was able to pick her way around the golf course like I'd never seen before. The way she practiced her numbers and understood her miss. Like, I just learned so much from being around her. But then, the Brendan thing, obviously he was a good friend from mini tours, and then I started coaching him. And then the first time I caddied for him, he won a PGA Tour event. It was an incredible experience to feel the pressure. Like, people talk about pressure, but you don't understand it until you start to feel it. And obviously I'm not in his body. It doesn't, I'm just carrying a bag and getting his numbers. But it was a windy day, and I think he shot 1 or 2 under on the front and had a 2-shot lead, walk 10. Now I made a comment of, God, this is just so much fun. I am just having the best time. And he turned around and was like, well, I'm glad one of it. And I was like, what do you mean by that? You're not enjoying it? And he said, just wait. He said, this will be the longest 9 holes of your entire life. And because he'd won before. And sure enough, got to 10 green, looked at the leaderboard, 1-shot lead, and you just want it to be done.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to just be over right now, please. 11, 12. He was right. It felt like 6 hours that back nine, because just the walk between balls was so long, and you don't really know what to say. You're trying to say the right thing at the right time. Sometimes that's hard, and just very, very difficult to finish off. Because it's not a reactionary sport, and you've got a lot of time to think about whatever it is you need to think about, which is usually a bad thing. Yeah, he got it done, and then we had a situation, I think it was 2 times later I caddied for him. He had a 2-shot lead with 2 to go at Sony Open, and didn't do anything differently. Did everything the same, like did really good job of running good process and staying in the moment and thinking he was going to win. And Cam Smith ended up making a 12-footer on 18 to get in the playoff, and then chipped it out of the trees on the first playoff hole to like 8 feet and won the playoff. It's so amazing as a coach to be in the situation, one where we were successful and one where we weren't. And just to understand that sometimes it's, a little bit of luck and a nice bounce and timing's good and momentum of a round, and there's so much that goes into winning, which makes it even more impressive what Tiger did, really. Incredible.
When you walked off that Safeway Open, were you starting to think, hang on, am I a better caddy than my coach, or is it? Or were you just like, I'm just great at both?
Well, I mean, of course I'm coming home and getting, 200 texts from people, and my wife's doing the maths on the win. She's like, well, maybe you should do next week. But with him, it's been a bit of a running joke. I think we won the first, finished 12th, and then lost in the playoff, and then finished 4th. So like my first 4 events were just.
I mean, that's some record. That.
What do you feel you offered him differently when you were caddy?
I mean, that's the question, isn't it? Because obviously I'm not as good a caddy as he's Christian Donald, Luke Donald's brother.
No disrespect to you as a caddy, but no, you're probably a lot better as his coach than you are helping him on the back.
You know what we did really well is, and what works for Brendan is, I wouldn't ever give him the answer. So I would say on the first tee, I'm not the player. You're much better than me, and I'm not the caddy. I'm not a good caddy, right? So you tell me what you're gonna do, right? So I'd get your number. Right? Okay, it's 172 to the front, it's 180 to the pin. And if you're like, okay, wind's off the right, I'm going to just, if I a little fade 8, that'll take a little bit of number off, and, that'll get my number, whatever it is. So like immediately you kind of like got him committed and into his mental process.
Brilliant.
Versus if he's with Christian, it's like, all right, Christian, what do you think? And Christian's like, oh, maybe it's a hard 9. And he's like, oh, well, I was thinking 8.
Then
there's
like,
yeah.
Then there's doubt. Yeah. He's affirming to you what he wants to do, and even if he's wrong, he's right.
Yeah, exactly right.
I love that.
But go back to the individuality in humans and how we can't all be in one pattern and everyone's all unique. Obviously, that leads me into staying at the front of technology and at the front of the golf industry and things like that. Talk us through your role in Sportsbox and how that's helped you with your coaching and how you use that on tour and even in day-to-day.
Yeah, it's I'm doing a seminar for them tonight talking about sort of same sort of thing. So you got me going early. It's been tremendous. I'm not a huge techie, right? I use TrackMan, I would say, for the first 10 minutes of a technical lesson, I use my quad on the course for almost every single shot. And then I use Sportsbox, similar to how I would use a TrackMan, basically. So, I would have it on a player, especially the first lesson. I would definitely have it on the player. just to see what their movement patterns are, what kind of range of motion they have. With my tour players specifically, if they feel like they're swinging it well, we will definitely sports box and kind of put it onto, put it aside so we know where they were. I remember with KH Lee last year, he was struggling a bit, and we moved it. I basically sports box from when he was playing well, just won right before the PGA Championship last year, and then he was swinging well at the President's Cup. I just basically took those two sports box and then put it to where he was, and we found out that he wasn't turning as much. He was 4 degrees short with his hip rotation. I think 6 degrees short. Where I found it very interesting is, I hadn't really taught an amateur for about 12 years, and then I took this job in New York. So in New York, I go to the Hamptons in the summer for a few months and work with amateurs. And it's interesting. The players that come to me before that, like, they were somewhat vetted. Like, they had to be over the age of 12 and must have shot in the 60s and on that. So elite players, either tour players or elite juniors, and we've kind of vetted each other, right? Like, I'm only taking on certain players, they're only looking for certain coaches. There's an immediate trust there. Now, when I went to New York, a lot of very, very successful people there are not on YouTube, they're not on Instagram, they don't necessarily know much about me and my history. Not that there's a lack of trust there, but they've had a lot of before from coaches who have either done wrong or haven't proved to them. They're not particularly coordinated. They have great range of motion. So what I've done there, and what Sportsbox has been able to do with my amateurs, is it's allowed me to prove to them that they're moving in the right, not the wrong direction, right? Like these are the deficiencies, and this is where we need to get better. And they're like, oh wow, okay. And then when things would get better, I would use it again immediately. Hey, look, like, you turn more, we got the right hip moving back behind you. Like, look how that's changed motion, but obviously the ball's better too. So, Sportsbox has been certainly invaluable for me, both on the tour aspect, but also on the amateur aspect.
When you look at the specific skills and qualities of looking at those technological apps or even TrackMan, it's knowing what you're looking at and what's relevant at the right time. And, you do a very good job of separating between the tour players and the amateurs, that's for sure.
Yeah. A lot of the times too, Alex, is, I've had hundreds of coaches come and watch me teach for the day. And what I'm always proud of, and I'll say at the beginning, I'm like, I want you to let me know at the end of the day what you think I did well. And I want you to let me know what I think I can do better, right? Like, have you seen another coach do it better than I have? Like, what should I be adding to my teaching, right? But for the most part, what everybody says is every player at the end of the lesson than they did at the beginning, right? And we can talk till we're blue in the face about what makes a great lesson. But if I was a player, if I get better at the end of the lesson than I was at the beginning, I would consider that a great lesson, right? So,
yeah,
whether a person's given me a ton of technical information, whether a person's put me on a bunch of technology, like, if I'm better at the end than I was at the beginning, I would consider that a great lesson. So, like, that's where I've always kind of based my coaching from. And all I'm really using the technology for is to either help me or help the person expedite that process, right? And if you use it, in a way that can do that, then the technology is great.
Yeah, sometimes we're too reliant on technology instead of using it as a validation tool, right? Yeah.
You've obviously had a lot of really great players come through your stables, and what do you think is the difference between the ones who are successful and the ones who aren't?
Any level, or are you talking on the tour level?
Yeah, I would say the ones who all want to be professional golfers, the ones who go on to be professional golfers and on the PGA Tour, LPGA, and the winning, compared to the ones who don't quite make that level and they're playing, Corn Ferry.
Basically, the players that make it professionally, and I'm not saying a guy who gets on tour and then is off, like a guy who stays out there for years. they know who they are and they know what works for them.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Like they're not reinventing the wheel. They're not looking for a magic potion or solution. They're not looking for a quick fix. They understand when I play well, I hit a fade. I only hit a fade. I am on track, man, getting my numbers, making sure my flights and my numbers are good, making sure my putting does X, Y, Z. Like those are the things that the great players have in common, and then bore it to death. Like they know what works, and the players that don't are jumping around coaches, that jumping around feelings that might potentially get them over the edge. And I look back now at my career as a playing professional, and that's what I was trying to do. I was on video, and like, if I keep my right heel down just a freaking longer so that it looks like Tigers at P5 or whatever, like is that going to get me on tour tomorrow? I think it is. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. I've never practiced.
So funny. It's so funny you say that. I mean, we all know Pete Cowan. I mentioned him before in podcasts, and I was with him 27 years, and he never changed. He hardly ever changed anything. He just kept it simple because I knew how it worked. And if I understood it, then life's a lot easier, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you're right.
Yeah.
These guys jump around. Oh, he's teaching that. I quite like that. Oh, hang on. He's teaching that. Oh, I like that. So they deviate from the original blueprint. A lot of them, don't they?
Yes, you're exactly right. And there's an element of, say this in my seminar in career, like change produces change, right? So careful what it is that you change.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that's better or worse, but if you're constantly changing, there will be constant change. And you're never going to be able to produce what we're all really looking for, which is a consistent, repeatable, reliable result where the ball's going. And if you know where the ball's going, then you're just looking at other elements of reading lies, reading the wind, like playing the game, which no one teaches.
Yeah, and we're all in search of that. And you get a lot of the players that don't make it that are all in search of that magic potion, right? That we're all trying to be like, okay, he's been coaching him and he won last week, so he must have the magic bit of fairy dust to make it like next week.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't work like that. And that's the mindset and the attitude. And what mindset and attitude have you found among the best players that you see as very prominent or very good at using those to better themselves, should we say?
I have a bit of a saying, like the top players are complete maniacs. And in a good way and a bad way, right? And Dice, you've been around, better players than I have, but the ones that are out there, those top 20, 30, 40 players, right? For the most part, are complete maniacs. Like very driven, very single-minded, like can be really complete pricks most of the time when like they're like very like their mind just doesn't quite function in a normal aspect.
Yeah.
And there's some normal people out there who are very, very good golfers that won't make it. Their brain functions in a normal way that's not selfish, and it's it's not driven, and it's not determined, and that would be the difference. And the other thing too is we're getting into a world, unfortunately, where the top players, and wow, not even the top players, everybody that's making it on the PGA Tour is a complete stud. Like incredible player, incredible as a junior, incredible in college, the best of the best. Very, very rarely you get someone who was, you never heard of them as a junior. Like they went to a Division II school and they just worked really hard to get on the Corn Ferry. And then they were on the Corn Ferry for 5 years. And then somehow they made it to the PGA Tour and when they made, that's not happening anymore, right? These players are absolutely phenomenal from 13 years old. And they just had coaches that were good enough to stay out of the way.
Yeah.
And as a coach, that is an incredible skill, right? Is to recognize genius in the junior player and stay out the way.
Beauty's in the silence, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the
That is
college
great.
system's helping all that the America's got? Because they're just churning them out for fun, aren't they?
They are. I mean, I think a lot of it is, let's face it, there's a lot of great English European players that are coming over and competing very well in America too. But I think the information over the last 10 years is so easy to attain that it produced much better coaches.
Yes.
The technology makes it much easier to coach and to play, right? Like Trackman and Boston. So players are coming out ready to play well. They have to shoot to win a junior tournament nowadays. I was shooting 72 and winning by 3. The game's just changed. The players are used to shoot. They know their numbers well. They're getting great coaching for the most part, and then they're going to America and competing with other like-minded people who are determined and hardworking. And it's, I think that improving tremendously because of those things. Just
ridiculous.
When I was playing, 22 to 26, like at least at the end of the year, I could go to Q School. Now you've got to go through Latin America tour and the blah blah tour, and just to get to the Corn Ferry, and then you've got to spend a year on the Corn Ferry and hope you play well to get to the PGA Tour. It's such a rigmarole.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, 20 on the par for 4 rounds to win the tournament.
Ludicrous. I could never get me as a player when I used to play, and I was never anywhere near as good. But I could never get my mind around these guys that would go out and just go unconscious and shoot 9, 10 under par. I just could never get my mind around it.
No. And that's kind of what we're talking about, right? Like, no coach is teaching that.
No, definitely not.
Oh.
I don't think that, exactly like you're saying, you can't, can you? You've got it in you to go and do it and be a lunatic and just not even know what you're doing and walk off the golf course. How did you play that? I don't know. I played all right. What did you shoot? 10 under. All right, okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Let's kind of wrap things up here. Is there anything that you would have done? Because we could stay here and talk for hours. I know we could. But is there anything you would have done differently, or any kind of lessons you've learned throughout your career that you wish you learned earlier, or a little bit of value in, anything you've come across that you feel would be valuable to anyone that might be listening?
My background is more on the mental side. I've been very spoiled here in San Diego. There's a lot of wealthy people, a lot of great players, a lot of good facilities, amazing weather. Like I'm fully aware that I've been in a perfect place for what I've wanted to do. I went down the mental side, and I loved that. I've been privileged. TPI is here in San Diego. So anytime I had an issue, if it was body related with one of my top players, I could call up Greg Rose, and Greg would get in and let us know if there was an issue or not. So again, I've been very spoiled. But I would say my deficiency as a coach is probably more on the physical side, only because I've had so much help. If I was in England, like maybe I would be doing more TPI stuff along with stuff. I was at the Top 100 Summit last year. A guy came up to me and he says, of all the people that got on, I really admire this. Like you weren't a David Ledbetter guy, you weren't a Jim McLean guy. Like these guys have kind of been a team and supported each other. What I say with a young coach, you don't need to do it on your own, right? Like you can call up Alex and Simon Dyson, and pretty sure you guys would help people out. Right?
Yeah.
You can call up Mason and come and watch me play. Come and watch me teach for a day. Great. Like I'm willing to help you out. Like, so if you are a young coach, like, and you want to spend some time with people, like most of the coaches will let you spend time with them, and you have these amazing resources to really expedite your learning curve. And maybe if I could go back and talk to my 28-year-old self, I would say, go and ask that guy for some advice. Go and ask that guy for some advice.
We've got Carl
Got a
jumping in here now.
crossover. It's all right. I need to go and get a drink anyway. Oh, he's
That's
gone.
all right.
He's gone.
Chris, it's been a pleasure, mate. It's been unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having you on again, definitely.
Yeah. And I don't know whether you're going to end the podcast here or not. I want to know where you two are with your coaching and like what it is, like what aspirations both of you have like in the next, 2 to 5 years and like where you see it.
I personally just want to keep getting golfers better, and if validation of that means that I get some players out on tour from junior golfers, then that's what it means. And if it just means I keep helping amateurs across the world, I've got a couple guys that are starting to really show some good stuff, couple pros and things like that, so that's nice for me. But yeah, I mean, I just want to keep growing. I've got visions of doing things like yourself, having my own academy. I mean, I lived over in the States, same as you, so I'd love to get back over to the States at some time and do some stuff over there. Come over, spend some time with yourself and some other guys. That's where I see it. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing to, get the game better and get players better. That's where I see it.
Yeah, I'm saying, I literally, when I first started, I was like, right, my goal is to get on the European Tour. And now I probably couldn't think of anything worse, if I'm honest.
You know what it's like to work with players.
But
you were one yourself.
Exactly, and we're a pain in the arse. So that's why I don't really want to do it. I had 3 guys in for 2 days with me. They were off 1, 5, and 8. And I had the best 2 days with them. And they all loved it. They all took a lot away from it. And I thought, do you know what? I get more satisfaction from that than actually trying to help a pro who's already a really good player try and get quarter of a shot better on his stroke average. So I get more pleasure from that. I love doing coaching trips. Me and Alex are going to do one. I just love going. I love being in the sun and just teaching. So I'm happy where I'm at. I want to play seniors in 4 years' time. So
Here he goes.
I'm just biding my time, and then I'll be out in San Diego getting taught off you when I'm on the Champions Tour, Chris.
And then Chris, if you ever need a helping hand over in Korea or in New York or in San Diego, then you know to give me a ring. So that's perfect.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Happy days.
Are there any coaches who you think are doing a really great job at the moment?
In the UK?
I mean, anywhere in the world. Is there anybody you're like, man, he seems to be like...
See, we spoke to Gavin Parker earlier on today, recorded a podcast with him, and you've probably seen a little bit about him. He's called the CEO of Junior Golf or whatever. And what he's doing in the game at the moment is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really good. Really good.
Like, his intake of getting juniors into the game and keeping them in the game is phenomenal. So if you were to ask me a question before we'd done the podcast, then you can say, Hugh Maher over here is doing a good job of developing coaches, should we say, and actually making the industry better from a coaching perspective. And obviously all the guys that are on tour, in my opinion, are doing good jobs with the best and whoever else they're working with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's names that jump out to me. I could quite easily say yourself because you've got players at the top level, and I can quite easily say people like Mark Blackburn, Sean Foley, Joe May has done some great stuff with Victor Hovland lately, as people have seen.
Yeah, I think someone like Stu Morgan's finally kind of breaching the boundaries of just your bog standard technical coach, and he's pushing the performance stuff. He goes way too deep for me, though. Some of the stuff I read and I'm like, I don't even understand what that means. So I'll ring him up and then he'll explain it, and I'm like, well, that's how you should have posted it, because I'm sure I'm not alone. But he's got Rob McIntyre. He's got a couple of other guys on the tour now, so he's starting to get the push that he deserves. But yeah, I mean, yourself, I've known you a long time. I know we had a spell where we've not spoke for years, but listen to your podcast, and everything you talk about is exactly how I see the game of golf and how I think it should be taught. So yeah, and I can't wait to come out to San Diego and spend a bit of time with you, like I said I would when we're in Orlando.
Yeah, there we go. Job done.
Forward to having you guys.
Yeah. All right, mate.
Awesome.
Thank you
Chris,
very
it's
much.
been a pleasure. Great to chat. Great to catch up.
Thanks a
Good
lot.
luck with the seminar and
Yeah.
everything in career, pal.
See you later.